In other news tonight, union members and their supporters are fighting a plan to give more power to the people who are appointed to take over struggling cities and schools. 1,000 people from around Michigan rallied at the Capitol today, at times making their voices heard inside the Senate chamber. 24-hour News 8 political reporter Rick Albin asked the governor about the issue today. But first up, Tony Tagliavia with a look at what both sides are saying.
Right now, there are 4 emergency financial managers working in Michigan, 3 in cities and 1 in a school system. The people who are opposed to giving those managers more power fear their numbers could grow.
That's not right! That's not right!
They stood outside the Capitol and inside the halls. Could you hear them here in the chamber?
Oh, yeah.
Protesters say they're worried because under the plan, emergency financial managers would be able to void union contracts and emergency managers would overrule local elected officials.
It doesn't matter if you're a worker or you're a citizen. You don't have a voice anymore. You don't have an elected official that you can take your complaints to. The emergency manager, appointed by a bureaucrat in Lansing, is going to dictate what goes on.
Emergency managers are in place in the cities of Benton Harbor, Ecorse, and Pontiac, and in Detroit Public Schools. East Lansing Senator Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, says the Republican governor's planned budget cuts would create the need for more financial managers instead of working to avoid having them put in place. But the plan's backers say it allows for earlier intervention to prevent bigger problems. They say it gives emergency managers the tools needed to turn communities and school systems around. We asked the Senate Majority Leader, Republican Randy Richardville, to respond to protesters' concerns about too much power being put in the hands of an emergency manager.
Well, it's a short-term fix. Again, we're talking about communities that would otherwise go bankrupt or school districts that would completely go out of order. So it's a suspension of those rights while things are being fixed, and then we put them back together again.
Richardville says he expects the Senate to pass the plan tomorrow. We'll be watching tomorrow to see if that does indeed happen. At the Capitol in Lansing, Tony Tagliavia, 24-hour News 8.
So will these demonstrations continue, and what's the underlying cause? And will Lansing start to look like another Wisconsin?
Just a few of the questions we're putting to 24-hour News 8 political reporter Rick Albin. You were in Lansing today.
Yeah, we were there all day long. It was a big demonstration. And will they continue? Almost certainly, because there is another one scheduled for next Tuesday on the pension plan. The underlying cause, all of the above. As Tony said, the emergency manager legislation, pension tax, repeal of binding arbitration, cuts to cities, cuts to schools. That's just for starters. Another Wisconsin? Don't think so, and here's why. Issues are substantially different. For one, and there's also an attitude. Here's what the governor had to say about the protesters and how people in general react to change.
On the campaign trail, I think we had this discussion. Actually, I stated that when it actually comes about happening, human nature is everyone likes change until it affects them. And when it affects someone, what sounded really good, all of a sudden you step back and go, I don't know if I like that now, or they might just actually not like it. But as a practical matter, what I ask people to do is get over that first initial reaction and then step back from that to say not just how it affected them personally, but ask the question in the we context. We as Michiganders, what is the right answer?
Even though I don't see any indication of the same kind of animosity that we've seen in Wisconsin, I would expect more and even perhaps bigger demonstrations as legislation and budget bills get closer to reality. And as the weather warms up, we, of course, will be in Lansing to let you know exactly how all of this plays out. It is the most active I've seen the Capitol in a lot of years.
Oh,
absolutely.
Indeed it is. Okay, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.